Hello, my name is Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, thank you so much for checking me on this channel out. And if you are a returning viewer, then thank you so much for sticking with me after I've been away for so long. It has been such a long time since I've filmed a video. I kind of want this one to be like a little bit of a casual catch up. I mean, I want to talk about some books I've been reading, some books I plan to read, but I want to be mostly informal just to kind of, I don't know, talk a little bit about why I've been gone, but not delve into it too much either. And yeah, just sort of try to get back on the schedule of hopefully filming a bit more regularly. I do appreciate everyone who's watching this, who has been watching this channel for a little while. I know I used to post a little bit more regularly. I know I've never been the most regular poster since I've started this YouTube channel, and it is mostly like for fun. Like I don't want to put out a video just to put it out for the sake of like putting out a video. When I have done that like once or twice, like I felt a bit rushed. I felt like those weren't really great videos. Like I didn't really put into it like what I wanted to. And this isn't anything like close to a job for me. Like I'm not making any money from this. Maybe one day that could change, although I don't necessarily want or anticipate it to. I'm just here to talk about books that I really like. And obviously I appreciate engagement from people. Like I do look forward to like comments and stuff. And like, yeah, it feels nice to like get views or whatever, new subscribers, but I'm not super like playing into an algorithm or whatever. So like this last month of not filming, it was kind of nice to just try not to stress about it too much and just take that time. And yeah, this last month has just been really busy. I knew that I wasn't gonna be really doing any filming over December or the end of December. Or super early January. I went back to see my family in December, and then I had some family visiting early January as well, and then work started, so I just knew like I wasn't gonna film anything and there wasn't gonna be time. And work honestly got kind of busy really fast. I think the first couple days back were like, okay, this is fine, this is a little chill, like not a whole lot to do yet, just catching up from some things from before the break. And then I think like the Thursday that I was back, a lot of things just kind of like hit me, and I was like, oh my god, I need to do these millions of things. So since then, pretty much every day at work has felt so busy. I haven't been working from home as much like I kind of was previously. I would usually get like about 2 work from home days, and because of some stuff happening at work, I just have been in the office a lot more, which is fine, but it definitely, like the commute and everything takes a bit of your day, so that's something to always consider. And honestly, I just also haven't been doing super well, like mental health wise. I've been so moody, and I don't want to get into this too much, it is pretty personal. Yeah, when you're in kind of a weird place, you feel like you don't want to be, I don't know, talking to a lot of people. You don't always feel like you want to be putting content out like this. At least that's how I feel, and I don't know how other YouTubers who maybe also dealing with certain mental health issues are doing things more regularly, because to me it just feels impossible, not only to even like setting up the camera and thinking like, okay, I'm gonna have to edit this video later that night or the next day. Like it's just the idea of like talking to an audience, whether it's big or small, like it takes a bit of, I don't know, like you really have to be prepared for that. And I don't think I'm really putting on like a huge persona when I do this. I think I am mostly being myself, but I'm like, I don't know, there's always a level of separation when you're doing something like this. I know I'm not like my true self. Like obviously for me, I wouldn't feel comfortable like coming on here like while I'm crying or while I'm super upset and moody and upset, whatever. Like I wouldn't want to do that. So obviously this is something I like to do when I'm in a better mood, or at least a more like neutral one. So that's also made it hard because I just haven't had the energy or the willingness to want to put anything out. And I was planning on doing kind of like a year wrap-up video, which I just don't think I'm going to do at this point. Like it just feels a little bit daunting, and that's also maybe why I put it off for so long. It's like, well, I need to go through all my stats. I need to pick like my favorite books, my least favorite books, all these things that a lot of these like videos classically have. And I just, as the time especially goes on, I don't feel like it. Like, I don't know, we're almost a month into 2024 now, and I'm just like, yeah, it's, I don't know, I don't want to. I don't know that anyone's necessarily looking forward to that, so it's just like, I'm gonna do some other videos. But again, thank you for being patient if you are coming back to watch these, because it does mean a lot. I do appreciate having viewers. I do appreciate when people comment and share my video. I know people from work tell me that they watch my video, and I have friends who tell me, oh, I just watched your video, or I shared your video with someone, and that means so much to me. Like truly, I cannot like express how much that means to me, because this does not feel like the most professional thing I've ever done. This does not, I mean, I do put work into this, absolutely, but I know that there's people who go like above and beyond with like the videos they make, and to me it's just like, it's a fun hobby. But I appreciate that people like care in any sort of way about the thoughts I have on books, or I've had some people be like, oh, you've given me good recommendations. And like, that means a lot, because yeah, I don't know, it feels cool. That's something fun that I have been doing. So I don't know that I mentioned this at all on my channel, but I've been taking dance classes since last September, and it's been really fun. And this last weekend, I just had my first ever dance show. And it was really, truly amazing. The community is so cool. I have some other friends doing it, and I had some friends and my partner come and see both my shows. So it just, I don't know, it was so fun. Taking dance classes is very unlike something that I ever thought I would really do. I mean, I took a class when I was like 11 years old, like one of those like little jazz classes that your parents sign you up for and you don't really know what you're doing unless you're super passionate already. I know something I wanted to do when I was younger was ballet for the longest time, but I don't know, my parents probably couldn't justify the cost, really didn't want to, I don't know, involve me in something that could be very time consuming and maybe, I don't know, maybe I wasn't passionate enough like in their eyes about it. But either way, I just did like a little community center dance class and nothing since. But yeah, it's been so fun. And I don't know, some of my friends do, and they're the ones who got me into it. So very appreciative of that, and like so grateful to now have this new community here, especially in a place where I am in a new city. I might have mentioned that before. Like I moved in last January, so I've been here for about a year now. So that was like another milestone that happened recently. Just trying to be appreciative because yeah, it's rough sometimes. And I think I'm on this like post-show high, and I still feel really happy because honestly, even like the Friday before the show, I was kind of like feeling a little moody. I was very nervous for the show too, so that was definitely part of it. And once I got to the venue and saw like my friends and fellow classmates, like dancers, I started feeling a lot better, and the show happened and I felt great, and then Saturday was even better. So yeah, like these things come and go, of course. So I'm definitely anticipating like there will be another low again, but I will appreciate what I have for now and like the good mood that I'm in right now, especially with everything else that's going on. Yeah, thank you for listening to that. If you are still watching, and because it's very different, I feel like I usually go straight into just talking about books. And I know I mentioned like bits of my personal life here and there, but not so much. So yeah, this is a very different kind of video. And if no one watches it, that's okay. I just wanted to put something very chill out before I start doing more like themes or like themed videos like I did with like my romance book reading or just single book reviews, which I was also really enjoying doing for a bit. I also just want to talk about some books that I'm currently reading and some books that I'm excited to read in the near future, because there are quite a few, but I think I'm just going to talk about like a couple of them so I don't go into it too much. The first book that I'm reading is with a book club of mine that I've been in for a few months now, and it is Dominion by Stephen R. Bown, and it's about the building of the railway across Canada, the politics around that. And yeah, it's just a really big history book, but it's written in a really engaging way. I feel like if you're Canadian, you maybe will agree with me that Canadian history is not very interesting. I did not necessarily care to learn about it when I was in middle school or high school. It was something you had to do, obviously, but it was not fascinating. And so I wasn't necessarily sure if I would be super into this book, but I am really enjoying it. I'm barely like a third of the way through, and I'm meeting my book club on Sunday, so I do hope to finish it up before then, or at least get really close to doing so. But yeah, I didn't really realize, like, I don't know, even, and this makes me feel kind of silly, but I didn't really realize that, like, obviously Canada is a huge country, and there weren't like easy ways to communicate with different parts of it. And really at this time, actually, like, before the railway, Canada wasn't the country that it is now. Like a lot of the provinces we have now didn't really even exist in the way they do now. I mean, the territory was kind of maybe a British colony, but maybe not. British Columbia was a British colony that was very separate from Canada, had just become a country, and they were thinking about joining, otherwise they might join the US. And John A. Macdonald, our first prime minister, really wanted to kind of connect this whole like land. One of the caveats was that you need to build a railway, and there needs to be a better way to like have an economic flow and communication, because that just was not the case before. And actually, this was really interesting. At the very beginning of the book, it said that if you are traveling from British Columbia, Vancouver, Victoria, you would have to kind of take a steamboat down to San Francisco and then take a train across the United States to get to like Ottawa or Montreal, anywhere in kind of more like Eastern Canada, which makes so much sense, but it's not something I really thought about. But Canada obviously has a lot of mountains, especially towards the west, a lot of like rocky terrain and areas that were definitely difficult to get through. I think this book has a lot of nuance. It does talk about like some of these big political and historical leaders, without necessarily glorifying them, at least so far. Definitely does talk about the impact that this has had on the Indigenous and Métis people of the land, who did not always care for these relations with these settlers or colonizers, who did not always care for having a railway built through or near their land. And there was just a little bit on like the Red River Rebellion that was led by Louis Riel, a Métis man, And I think there's gonna be more about it because we did not finish that up at all. So it does tackle a lot that I don't think we learned much about in middle school or high school. I don't think, just like, I think history is definitely inherently political in a lot of ways, but it was not kind of taught in that way. It was taught in a way, I think it was tried to be a lot more neutral, which maybe in middle school it's a little like somewhat understanding because like you are pretty young, although I feel like you could start to talk politics a little bit, but by high school it's not really an excuse. I'm also reading What Is to Be Done by Nikolai Chernyshevsky, and this is also with another reading group. This one's a little less formal, just kind of created to read this with some of my other Marxist friends back in Ontario. And this book was written in the 1860s and very much inspired a lot of the Russian revolutionaries of the 20th century. So it was written, I believe, before definitely before Marxism was a thing. Like, this man was not a Marxist, but he was a socialist of his time. And this is a fictional novel that was written while he was in prison, and I think it was written fictionally to get some of his political ideas across without being so blatant and not being able to be past the prison censors. This book tackles a lot of different themes, such as the sort of generational divide between the young and the old, sort of newer ideas that are coming in with younger people, women's rights as well, poverty, materialism, and books that were written a long time ago were kind of tough for me to read. Like, I had to read 2 Jane Austen books with sort of like Sparks Notes essentially. Like, it very much helped to give the context, and this book also does have that as well, because yeah, it is tricky. So it is also helpful to be reading this with other people who don't always know the context, but maybe can get some here and then you get some there, and it's kind of completes it. So it's interesting. It's an interesting book so far. Not the easiest read initially. I definitely have to go through some passages, but it's even funny sometimes. So yeah, it's kind of cool. I'm glad to be reading with other people. It is nice to sort of have like a book club going and being able to discuss later. And as for books that I want to be reading, this one sort of doesn't count because I did just start it last night. It's Rouge by Mona Awad, and I'm only like 20 pages in, so I'm barely there, and I do kind of want to get more through Dominion before I really get into this one, because I feel like this is one of those reads that's a little bit more of a quicker read than something that is nonfiction is. Mona Awad is, like, she has such interesting ideas. I read Bunny, I read All's Well That Ends Well, but I didn't love either of them. Bunny I actually don't think I really liked that much at all. All's Well Ends Well, I hope that's the title. Sorry if I'm wrong. I liked a bit more, but it didn't like wow me. This one, I don't know, the cover's obviously so beautiful, and that's just like a huge thing for me too. This one's about the beauty industry and a young woman's relationship to it via her mother, who is definitely like pretty beauty obsessed, and she becomes, particularly skincare obsessed. And her mother dies, and she meets a mysterious stranger, and there's like a spa that she gets invited to that probably will have some cult-like tendencies. I just started it. It's just like at her mother's funeral, so I'm not super deep into it yet, but I am definitely interested, and if I wasn't reading another book, I'd probably be a lot further in this one, so I will be starting it more soon. It's also due at the library in like 4 or 5 days, so I do want to try to get it done as quickly as possible, so it's not more than like a day late, but we will see. But I'm definitely excited about it. I was also recommended The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss by a friend who visited recently, and I feel like he's recommended quite a few fantasy books to me, and I have not read any of them. So I just, as he did that, I just put this book on hold from the library, which I think I need to be banned from doing because there are so many books I want to read, and I just keep freaking ordering books from the library and not getting to the books that I bought, or even not getting to there's some books I borrowed at the end of December at the library that I have not read yet, and I've been able to renew them, but I feel like that time is running out soon. But anyway, this one's definitely happening soon. I think I might read this in February. I know I was talking about earlier in my sort of goals for 2024 video about sort of like themed genres really that I want to read. Maybe each month there'll be a different genre I kind of focus on. Maybe February will be fantasy month, and I'll try to read maybe a couple fantasy books. But this one is, I believe, about a very notorious wizard, and I think the story is told like through this wizard himself, kind of about his childhood and growing up, while other present events are happening, which is a very interesting and hopefully not messy concept to me. I do love books that span across a character's whole life. I think that's so fascinating, and it came very highly recommended from my friend, and it looks like a pretty popular fantasy book, so maybe you've read it. If you have, would love to know what you thought about it. And the one unfortunate thing is, I believe he mentioned, we talked about a lot of books that night, so I think this is the one who was saying this about, that it's very much like a Game of Thrones situation where it's taken this author a while to put out another book. Like, this one came out in 2007, a sequel came out in 2011, and there's supposed to be at least a third book, maybe more, and nothing has come out yet, so we will see. And if I'm doing fantasy February, maybe I'll call it that. I would also like to reread The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri and then finally get to its sequel. I really liked this book. I read it about 2 years ago. It is so interesting, about an exiled princess, about a maidservant who can use magic, and the two of them eventually meet in this sort of like fictionalized country based on India. And I don't remember, honestly, like there was a huge cast of characters. I expected to just be following these two women, and I was following a lot more characters. So I just want to read this before I read the sequel, because I feel like I don't totally remember everything that happened in the end. I feel like someone died and I don't remember who, and just a lot of things happened. So yeah, I would love to reread this, finally read the second book, and I think the third one is coming out later this summer. So maybe I will read them all in 1 year. But yeah, this is what I was talking about with like, I need to stop just borrowing books from the library because there's books I own that I need to read. And I'd like to maybe make this one of them again. But yeah, that's my update on what I've been reading, what I want to read. And yeah, I know that like people read different amounts of books and like what's a lot for someone is not a lot for another. But yeah, I feel like 3 books is not a crazy amount for me. And I hope to get through at least a couple of these. I think the What Is to Be Done, Nikolai Chernyshevsky book, is probably not going to get finished this month because I am reading with 2 other people, and it is quite long and not the easiest read. I think it'll take us like another month to get through that one, but I would like to finish Dominion soon. I would like to maybe even finish Rouge by the end of this month, and then start on some of those fantasy books in early February. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I super appreciate you being here and listening to my thoughts on books, and apparently my sort of life update and catching up on that. It really means a lot that anyone is watching these. I feel like I've been saying that in the last like few videos. Like I feel like I said that kind of like the last video I put out last year, that it's just like wild to me that people watch this. Yeah, thank you for doing so. If you have any fantasy recommendations for me, if I am gonna read all these fantasy books in February, probably won't like read just fantasy books in February, but maybe more than 2, we'll see. I would love to hear any of those, or just any recommendations in general. If you've been reading anything cool, I would love to hear about it. If you've read any of these books that I mentioned, I would also love to discuss that. And yeah, please leave a comment below if you want. If you liked this video, please hit the like button, please subscribe, share the video. That also means a lot to me. And yeah, I hope to catch you a lot sooner than since my last video. And yeah, have a great rest of your day.